Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm Mayor Kathy Sheehan. I'm here to update you on where we are with the emergency remediation of the Central Warehouse. I want to start by thanking DOT Commissioner Dominguez as well as the DOT team that was so instrumental in helping to ensure that we had the resources on site to be able to move quickly once Amtrak made the determination based on our engineering report that there needed to be a remediation to occur before they would resume Amtrak traffic here. I also want to thank Amtrak for working with us, for sending engineering expertise, and for their patience as we sought to ensure that we could get this building to a point where they felt it was safe to resume that rail traffic. We also had assistance from the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that we had the right rescue equipment on site here. There was work that was happening on the railroad tracks, and we wanted to make sure that in the event that there was an injury that we had the ability to get to an individual, and DISHS helped us to ensure that we had that on site. I want to thank our Albany Fire Department and for their hard work to make sure that this site was safe for people to work. So after the initial evaluation was done of the building, initial analysis was done, and a work plan was determined and put in place to remove all of the loose masonry from the south-facing wall of the building, as well as the smokestack that was on the side of the building, as that was determined to be an imminent danger to the track, were there to be a catastrophic failure of that. That work is complete, and there is continued work that is still happening under the emergency orders on the interior of the building to pin certain areas that were found to have failed. But it is believed that that work will be completed, we hope, by the end of the week, maybe into next week, but we are at a point right now where the decision was made yesterday to resume that rail traffic. And it happened because we had a great work plan in place, great leadership in place through Rick LaJoy, who's the director of our our division of building codes and regulatory compliance. And so we do need to continue to remove loose concrete from the other 3 walls of this building. And again, that work is going to be ongoing. And then we will be providing a full report to the owner of this building with significant additional work that needs to occur. Even though the emergency is abated, we will be back here again unless the owner of this building takes immediate action to address the deficiencies in this building. He's been cited multiple times. He has been made well aware of what needs to happen to this building, and yet he has not done so. And so we will continue to pursue this in court to make sure that this building that we're not back here again with another emergency situation. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
What sparked the report? Why was that?
So this building has been languishing, as you know, Albany County, and I want to thank the county for their cooperation and coordination. I will say County Executive Dan McCoy has been briefed on this, was on all of our calls, and stood ready to assist the city should we need it, and so I'm grateful for the work that the county has done. They have sought to foreclose on this building. They have a developer who is interested in redeveloping this building, but they are currently being sued by the current owner, who is trying to fight that foreclosure. And so, this building has been sitting with all of these code violations. Now, remember, we've won in codes court, but the remediation has not occurred. The owner has not undertaken to do the things that he was required to do. So given the number of months that had passed since the last time we got eyes on this building, we sent inspectors down to take a look at the building, and while they were on the building and a train went by, they personally witnessed loose concrete falling from the building. So that was when the decision was made to write the report, send it to Amtrak, confer with Amtrak as to what they wanted to do with respect to rail traffic. Was there a safe speed? And ultimately the determination was made that they needed to get this loose concrete addressed. They needed to get that smokestack down and have that remediated before train traffic could safely resume.
What kind of communication has there been between the city and the owner? Has he responded to any communication that you've sent out to him regarding the building?
He has not done any of the, I can turn it over to our Director of Building and Codes, but my understanding is he has not responded to nor taken any steps to do any of the remediation that has been in any citation that has been sent to him. He was sent a citation by mail. That's the procedure that we do with this latest incident, we also called him. He has been on site, and we have made the report available to him.
Yeah, so the owner has been in court for... Sure. Yep. My name is Rick LaJoy. I'm the Director of Buildings and Regulatory Compliance for the City of Albany. The owner has been well aware of the condition of the building. We have been dealing with him for several years. We have several court cases with him, against him, for failure to comply. And those violations in particular dealt with the loose and falling masonry that has been happening for quite some time on different sides of the building at a lesser scale, as well as making the building watertight. None of these actions have been complied with, which is why we're standing, where we are today.
Now, given the history that you guys have had with the owner, what incentive is there for him to step in and remediate anything?
My hope is, as any good landowner, they would be responsible and take care of their buildings. It's their responsibility. It's not our responsibility to be standing here today until they are non-compliant. It is extremely important that the owner take the next steps that we are going to outline to him with very narrow time frames, or we will be back here again for probably the same issues, if not larger.
How long does the owner have to respond to this latest communication that you sent to him?
10 days.
Now, is there an emergency plan in place in case of a full-scale collapse with the building?
There are plans being put together, yes, ma'am.
Is the cash register running on this? How much is this costing the city?
To date, it's over $100,000, but we're not done yet, so I don't have a firm number.
The owner has claimed that this was all a plan to sort of push him out and get the building back. How do you respond to those claims?
This building has been owned by a recalcitrant owner who has a long history in New York City, in Harlem, in New London, Connecticut. He has been told what he needs to do to take care of this building. He has been told what he needs to do to remediate this building, and he simply does not believe that the rules apply to him. He does not believe that what engineers who have now looked at this building from the city, from the Department of Transportation, and from Amtrak are telling him about how dangerous this building could become. It needs to be made watertight, or this deterioration will continue. And so it is incumbent upon him to be a responsible building owner. And whether he thinks that the rules apply to him or not, it is not, that's not our issue. The rules do apply to him. There is work that needs to be done to make this building watertight. He is suing the county to try to retain ownership of this building. And you have to ask yourself, why? If he's not going to do the work to make this building safe for our community, what are his intentions? And this is the type of building that we often talk about demolition by neglect. Well, demolition by neglect of this building is putting people's lives at risk and potentially costing millions of taxpayer dollars. And so we are fighting to ensure that that is not what happens with this case. And this owner is the one who is continuing to fight this legally and continuing to insist that these rules don't apply to him. When told that he has to make this building watertight, his response was, it's concrete. I don't have to do that. Well, guess what? You do. And we're seeing what happens when you don't. We had a really difficult winter, and that was the other reason that we wanted to get eyes on this building. We had 2 major ice storms this winter. The freeze-thaw, as we got all the complaints about the potholes in the city of Albany, that same type of damage was occurring to any building that was left exposed to the elements. And this building is fully exposed to the elements, and now we have seen what happens when you do not address these issues. And his continued flagrant disregard for what he has been told by the city, where we've been successful in court, so by a judge, to do to this building, and his refusal to do that, I think speaks volumes. And we are going to continue to fight for our residents, to fight for public safety, and to make sure that this building gets the care that it needs.
You mentioned, ongoing construction that's going to need to happen, ongoing action with this building. If the owner doesn't respond by, I believe, Monday, August 8th is the 10-day deadline for when this initially started, is the city planning on taking any additional legal action against the owner?
So this is where we are going to have to look at where our legal authority ends and begins. We have the legal authority to deal with an emergency situation. We can go in and act even if there is a private property owner who owns the property. So we will have to determine where our emergency powers end and where we have to wait for another round of court decisions and trials for that action to then be able to be taken. We want for the county to be able to have certainty. We know that New York State sees this building as a really important piece of infrastructure that needs to be dealt with, and we want to ensure that we can move forward with a responsible owner who is going to actually recognize and acknowledge that the rules that apply to everybody else also apply to him.
Mayor, we know that there's a redevelopment plan proposed. Has there been any cost estimate ever developed? What it would take to actually knock this down if it came to that?
You know, the numbers are all over the place. I know that there are numbers as high as $20 million that have been talked about. I don't believe that that is the number. But the issue with this building is that there is asbestos inside this building. So the asbestos needs to be abated. And even estimating what that job is going to cost and how that would be undertaken requires significant additional analysis. And so there are a number of gating items that would then figure into the cost factor of taking it down. So, you know, we've heard from companies who all they do is demolish buildings. That's only one piece of it. There needs to be abatement before this building can be demolished. And then you have to move all of this debris somewhere if you were to demolish it. So that's an additional cost. You know, we want to be able to get to the point where we can really have a firm understanding of what that is, but right now this building is in private ownership.
The deterioration's been going on for many years. Did you have more responsive owners in the past, or is it just accelerating now with this owner?
So I really can't speak to that. I don't know what the history is. I know that it was owned by a bank at one point in time. I do know that there were points in time where windows were boarded. But before my term as mayor, I believe it was in 2011, I'm looking at the fire department, there was a catastrophic fire at this building, 2010. And so this building burned for a number of days. It wasn't safe for the fire department to come in and fight the building, so they had to let it burn, and that really exacerbated the issue with the asbestos.
Do you have any real concerns about a sudden catastrophic collapse or slow motion fall?
We have ongoing analysis as we speak. We're continuing to do our assessment. At this point, we don't find any immediate imminent threats. We've remedied those on the south side, but in conjunction with that, you know, we are doing continued work in there to stabilize the walls on that south side.
How many years has that debris been on the south side?
I'm not sure. The debris I saw drop that day was only from a couple days ago.
Was it like huge chunks?
They were sizable, yes, sir. Even into this weekend, I think somebody in the media happened to see it as well from the bridge. You know, this building is not in good shape.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey guys have our attention. The cars in this lot need to be moved, and if that's somebody's burgundy car parked on the corner, that needs to be moved as well for these two businesses here. And then you come back and ask whatever questions you need to ask after, but whoever has these cars in this lot needs to move them ASAP. Thank you. I mean, lock if you have to, just obviously this is a business that